Hi, I'm Quan Tracy Cherry, and I'm here with,
Tavish Carter.
and we're here representing our raw material for the winter session of 2021. And the first week is Mentors Week. So it's where we understand where we began and how we come to be. What's the question this week, Tad?
What quality do you find most attractive in another person?
So leave that in the comment section, or you can go to ourrawmaterial.com. Instagram is same, Our Raw Material, or the YouTube channel, which is also Our Raw Material.
Anyway, we'll be right back.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Quan Tracy Cherry, and I'm here with Tavish Cardiff. First week, what? We're starting all over again.
New session.
Yeah.
Winter 2021 Mentors Week.
Yeah, so the question that we asked you in the beginning is, what quality do you find the most attractive in another person? So,
And that will lead you down a lot of avenues when you start asking yourself why. But it also leads you into looking at who gave you those ideas to begin with.
yes.
When we start to really think about our own creation as a human being,
Okay.
let's just even think about your parents, how they came together to create you, the day that it started. There can be so many conditions that are around that formation.
True.
Whether they were together or not, whether it's a one night stand, whether they're mad at each other, so many factors that we don't even know go into just the zygote.
Yeah, zygote.
The
Yeah.
zygote of who we
That's
are.
what I remember.
And that DNA that first shows up with the fabric of everything going on around it.
And then some of us even have stories about while our children were intrauterine, what different things occurred. So when you become a parent, then you automatically become someone else's mentor.
So when we really look at ourselves and how we got to be who and how we are, we really have to take a look at the people that we have spent time around. And in our younger lives, especially the first 7 years, those are generally our family, or kids that we went to daycare with, or teachers, preschool teachers. We think about teachers as mentors. That's
Yes.
a really easy one. And, even as young as 3 years old, I can remember preschool teachers a preschool teacher that had a really cool influence on me, Mrs. Thomas, and Mrs. Yon, who was kind of a snooze. I didn't remember her as well. She didn't instill the same inspiration in me that Mrs. Thomas did. And maybe other kids felt a different way. Maybe Mrs. Yon inspired them. We are all drawn to different types of people because we're each individual and we're supposed to learn different things. And the people that we learn from are so unique. So teachers are obvious. But what about the kids? What about the kids that you spent time around? Who did you think was smarter than you? Who did you think was not as smart as you? Who did you make fun of? Who did you pick on? Who did you listen to every word they said and think that their ideas were the best ideas? These form the basis of our own belief system and who we are. And the kids that we wound up next to in class had a lot to do with who and how we see ourselves in the world. The hierarchy of people came from our elementary experiences. Overcoming them is different than realizing how they affected us. We don't grow up to feel like we're going to get bullied. I don't even know. That's not even true anymore. We grow up to be something different than we were as a kid. But if we don't go back and realize all those things that made us who we are, the good and the bad, and
Well, I think it's important that just by looking at it in totality, the good and the bad, then you start to develop this soulful voice of transcending the duality of good and bad, because you're focused more on how did it affect me, what lessons did I learn from it. Because this morning when I was thinking about recording this, for the first time, and this is going on 2 years doing this, for the first time I thought about mentors as my older siblings. They had not ever really come into the picture, and then my foster older brothers and just the adopted and all of that, and how each one of them affected me on a spectrum, really. You know, some was really, really good, and then others were like, oh, more resistant. It's just important to recognize that hard stuff, that challenging stuff, is that proverbial grist for the mill. Grist for the mill for you to evolve and for you to grow and for you to get beyond, I'm good, you're bad. Or what's your word? The mentor and tormentor. Yeah, I love that.
The people that harm us teach us just as much as the people that actually are there to teach us.
If not more, because I know sometimes it's the negative feedback that it's like, well, why do they think that way? You know, than it is all of the joyous positive feedback sometimes.
And even that internal dialogue that we have going for ourselves and the way that we talk to ourselves. I know that a lot of people in my practice come to me describing a negative self-talk and looking in the mirror and saying terrible things to yourself or believing terrible things about yourself. And these are the moments to really go back and look at where did that stuff form? Mm-hmm. You know, whose words are those? And where's the original wound that created these negative feelings that make us tell ourselves that we are less than amazing? Mm-hmm. Because each of us individually are. We just have different sets of criteria, purpose, intentions, passions, and for some reason we've gotten our equilibrium here in the world out of whack to where we value certain things over others collectively. Mm-hmm. But I think even that's changing.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I think the view of our world as a child, and then as we grow and evolve, we can still see the same collective stuff that maybe projects a negativity, whether it's colorism, whether it's gender, height, orientation, any number of the things that are out there. But as you start to listen more to your soul's voice, and definitely when we get to week 4, when you start to think about ignorance, you pause before self-judgment. You know, and you stop before you take in or interject someone else's incomplete understanding of you. You don't blame them and you don't blame yourself. You, in some ways, you can start to become your own mentor by seeing things through the eyes of your soul and by understanding from a holistic perspective that that may have bothered me a year ago, or that may have bothered me at 7, 8 years old, or what have you. But as far as this present moment, I know the roots of where that trigger was, where that seed was planted, and you move on. Doesn't mean you don't hurt. Doesn't mean
Absolutely.
that. But you move on a lot faster.
I haven't even told you this yet. This in the last couple of days, I had a memory come back to me, and it really demonstrates what a child thinks and how they feel. So my parents were bowlers, Friday night bowlers. And there was a family that the dad was the bartender at the bowling alley and the mom ran the daycare. And there was a girl, Shirley Brown, that was my age-ish, and we were friends. And on Friday nights, we would all hang out together. And I remember having awareness that my parents were there having fun and her parents were there working. Like, I knew that. But we had a lot of fun together. And she got in a car accident, or they got in a car accident. But my mother took me to go visit her at the hospital. And we went to go see her, and I was glad to go see her. And I was in afternoon kindergarten. She took me back to school, and she dropped me off at the door. You didn't have to tell anyone that you were dropping your kindergartner off. You just send him in.
Yeah.
And I walked in the door, and I see my kindergarten class rounding the corner, and I know they're headed to the library. And I can go down the hall and go join my class, which is exactly what I should do, right? Mm-hmm. But my 5-year-old brain, six-year-old brain, is scared to go join the class. I all of a sudden get mad at Shirley for having her accident. I should mention that Shirley and her family are Black. Mm-hmm. And I remember having a little bit of an issue, like going into an anger that was going to involve her skin color and mm-hmm. something in me saying, like, this isn't even her, but she's hurt. Yeah. You know, this wasn't her fault, but me being too embarrassed to join my class, not knowing what to do, and I walked home. At 6 years old, I walked 12 blocks home, and my mother was so mad at me. She didn't know where I was. I'm unsafe. She thought she dropped me off in my safe place. I didn't make it from the car door to the school door. There were so many things that I did wrong in that moment, all from being unsure about how I felt and not knowing how to attach my uncomfortable feelings to anything. And I that whole thing untangled for me the other day, and I looked back and thought I could see the roots of where so many weird things could have developed.
Okay.
But I think the fact that my mother pulled me apart about it made me not develop the energetic debris that sometimes, something so simple like that can create a situation where we hold some kind of person responsible for things that go wrong. So it was really interesting to me, that whole memory, and I could see my 6-year-old self having this conflicted thought that my 53-year-old self wouldn't give a second thought to. And being afforded those kinds of moments to really see yourself in real time as a child and how you thought and felt is cool. The more we do this mentor work, the more we are brought back to those moments where we learned things and where our edification of our true beliefs formed, positive or negative. And just seeing what goes into building the things that become us. Cool stuff, right?
And that's one of the points you have here is about remembering or going to the roots of those harmful statements that can still trigger you, and particularly when you feel feel stressed or feel more vulnerable, you're again more likely to react instead of to breathe and pause and maybe gulp some water or just stand up and walk around, do something to get out of the mindset. Because I know I've said this before, and if I haven't, then here it is. There's still statements about color, that the darkness of, my skin that can oddly still trigger in just because when I was chastised, I was the evil black snake, or I was the stupid black person, and this is in my own family. So there was usually some allusion to a painful statement and to being the darker skinned person. And so now I'm just really just dark chocolate, and who doesn't like chocolate? And if you don't, well, that's your business.
And I learned that from you. I didn't know anything about
colorism. Oh yeah, it's a big thing. And it's not just in black; it's in brown too. And granted, the triggering now lasts 15 seconds maybe, and but it took a while to get there. And but the mentors or the tormentors, there is a saving grace to your mentors in the sense that when you start to look at it, like you said, through the 6-year-old's eyes, at when you're in the middle of the middle, when you have the consciousness to do that and the intention, then there's a whole nother realm of space that opens up in the heart and in your being, in your physical body. You can feel your body getting energetically lighter, and I would say maybe even physically, lighter, because you're just not carrying as much weight, pun intended.
When we start taking a look at how we view life and death, how we view our approach to things, and the people that shaped it, we start to get just a better sense of what we want.
Yes, and we get a certain energetic reflection. Because we can look at the bullies or look at the successful people or look at the people who appear to have everything, but you don't know their internal thought process. You don't know what they're still working through in terms of security or insecurities or what have you. And so I just know that the more that I've done this practice, the faster I rebound from any extreme.
It doesn't,
we got 12. We've got 12 pillars here, so we're distilling, all these large 8 billion unique experiences that we can have as human beings, and distilling it into 12.
Out of breath around.
Okay, yeah. Large heart chakra stuff, and it's an aspect of the spaciousness of the heart that I will tell you, you will start to see differences in your day-to-day interactions. The stuff that you tell yourself, particularly when, because I'm at the age, we're both at the age that we can easily get put into, being someone's parent, because we are someone's parent, right? And so you can see these younger people looking at folks our age that show our age, proudly I might add, that if I get a sense that they're projecting some mental or parenting negative experience, I've learned over these couple of years of doing Our Raw Material to open my heart up even more, and to know that this is some projection of transference or something going on within the other person. And there's no need for me to take it personally, because if my inner talk is about owning my ego, owning the shadow created by the ego, owning my stuff around colorism.
And shadow just meaning the parts that we don't look at.
That we just don't look at. Yeah, that we splinter off somewhere. Yeah. Because wholeness means it's all, it's lit up. We gotta accept and allow all of it, right? And so I've just, it's just been a good ride allowing Our Raw Material to use me on a day-to-day basis, because I don't take anything personally that's not directly meant that way. And even then I will sometimes not take it personally, because it's about the evolution of owning your stuff, good, bad, or indifferent.
I like that you mentioned parenting.
Yeah.
What we want for our children is what we wanted for ourselves that our parents didn't give us, but it's not what our kids want.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize what our kids want until years later, when we actually do take a look back and see what the world looked like to them. We try to prepare them for the world that we see, and looking at the world that they see is a totally different space. And I'm guilty of not knowing to do that. But doing this process helps me realize, I need to look at this from all the perspectives that I can, because that helps me be more aware of what I'm putting out there,
mm-hmm.
and how I'm received. Because as older people, so set in our ways, so constructed in our, not us,
no. Oh yeah, those over there,
other old people. The collective we.
Yes.
The collective generational we know so much. Our intellect is so big. We have built our egos so immense that we fail to see how simple everything really is when you break it down and look at value and intention.
I thank you. That was beautiful. What I know in this moment is that, first of all, my son went to Amherst University or college, so I didn't even think about that times. With one of the times when I had a challenge with his mother, I can remember a statement that she said that affected me when he was less than a year old. She said, having him out, our son out in the world, is like having a piece of your heart roaming the world. And so whenever I would get frustrated, I would remember that, we're sharing a piece of heart roaming out in the world. And then as you were talking, that you illuminated that, but you also illuminated something else, that when you are a parent or mentoring with a passion and love for it, because you're conscious of it and wanting it, right? And certainly parenting, it's on-the-job training in a constant, unconditional love training. I mean, it's on-the-job training in unconditional love, which leads itself to you created another line of your roots by having a child. So,
and unconditional love, I think, is a really lofty ideal, and it is a practice. It's such a practice. Inadvertently, as we are practicing unconditional love, our children become teenagers or whatever. They step on our triggers. They step on our feelings, and they hit those deep-rooted things. And it gives us the opportunity to go revisit it for ourselves, or to harshly stand our ground and be ready to do battle with the people that we have said we would love unconditionally. So that practice of unconditional love is the underlying
motivation,
form
intention, but yeah,
of our raw material. And as we talked about how to approach this particular winter session of 2021, we really talked about working from the bones, working from the most simple space. How do you take the most simple outline and structure and apply it to all human beings? Because every one of us is so different based on our own mentors, tormentors, and the things that we've called that, and just the influences that we've had that we don't even realize have been our mentors and tormentors.
You know it. It's very important to understand that this is an organic process of looking within and monitoring in very simple, distilled ways what you're thinking and what you're correspondingly feeling in your body. And the more that we heal those connections around our family wounds early on.
I think as we get into studying mentors, we start to see the ways that we can use the information that we have now, looking back on it, to heal those old wounds and to find out the lesson, to go back and give it the love that it needs and resolve those issues so that we can kind of move forward and breathe through those spaces. They don't go away, but we see meaning in them. We see value in a place where we definitely couldn't see value when we were being harmed. And that is a tough one because a lot of horrible things have happened to people, and that's a lot to ask. Thank you again for joining us. Looking forward to this session, the bones
of ORM.
We'll see you next week for music.
Thanks.